Hey, before we get started with the show, I just want to let you know about a special event happening. It is an online event. It's being run by Taylor Huss, friend of the show, and young man who soundly beat me with combat gits before combat gits were even really a thing. And he's looking to put together this event to raise money for his Eagle Scout project. He'll be putting together a fire pit for his church youth at Village Church in his hometown. The event will be happening on the 31st of July. We'll have a cut to the second day. He'll be mailing out some prizes, so some of your money will help cover that. If you can help him out, participate or donate, or if you can donate even if you aren't being able to participate, that'd be great. We'll have a link in the show notes, and you can check that out for all the details that you could ever want on that. It's got a link to his posting on Best Coast Pairings. So good luck to Taylor, and on with the show. Welcome to What the Hex, your source for Warhammer Underworlds in under 30 more months before the next Forsaken and Restricted list. I'm your host, Davey, and with me, as always, I got my co-host, Phil. How are you doing, Phil?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, pretty excited.
All right. We have a guest here, which normally we'd introduce immediately, but I'm going to tell you the main topic here, and then, listener, you make a guess at who you think it is, and then we'll go from there. So our main topic, the FAR list has just dropped. There's your context. So we're going to talk about updating your list for the FAR, but we specifically brought in somebody who has a deck that uses a ton of universal cards. It's somebody playing Eyes of the Nine, and who could it be? There's only a couple real solid choices out there. And so we have Erik, goes by ErikErik if you are playing him online. Erik, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I tried to torpedo it a bunch by getting jumbled up with the time zones. I worked overnight and was a little tired this morning. So thanks for your patience on getting this.
No worries. It actually gave me time to look at the FAR list and think about what changes I could make. So
okay.
I think it was for the better, actually.
All right.
Nice.
Managed to recover from any heart attacks and then get back to it. So so that's what we're going to be doing. So we'll kind of go. If you want a blow by blow on the FAR list, we have some community shout outs for some folks who are taking a close look at that. We're going to talk about our general impressions of that and some highlights from it. But we're going to try and spend the bulk of the time. We'll have Erik talk about his Eyes deck, how it works. And then in the context of that, what changes he needs to make for that going forward. So having said that, though, community shout outs, I am going to swipe this one right out from under Phil's feet. But we always say this, but it's always deserved. The fast work for Underworlds DB is greatly appreciated. I know this was probably not as big a technical challenge as adding cards or anything like that, but it's a big deal for us making decks when we're excited for it. So, Erik or Phil, you got a shout out you'd like to give for the community?
Yeah. So just to throw out some of the other reviews so far of the FAR. So the Keep Chopping blog and Path to Glory both have blog articles up already, doing just a rundown of every single change and their thoughts on each of those cards, whether those changes they felt were deserved or, conversely, very much deserved, and then some broader thoughts, at least in the Keep Chopping one, particularly some potential concerns about what this means for the resurgence of hold objective play, which I think we can probably talk about a little later on.
Yeah, that's valid. I think I also wanted to mention Steel City Underworlds. Their blogging kind of fell off, and what they've done is shifted to YouTube reviews, and so they have Ollie, Tom, and Mike on all at the same time. You get that fun heckling each other energy that you get on their blog or when they are doing chatting crit there in the YouTube video. So I enjoyed watching that and checking it out. Erik, did you have anything, or should we keep it rolling?
Kind of like we could do a shout out for the poor tier list creators, especially the Sydney guys that released like a more than an hour long tier list on YouTube just the same day as the FAR was released.
Yeah.
I think it was just a few hours difference.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So just in like compassion to them, I think they deserve a shout out. And of course, Path to Glory, Naman also did a tier list very recently, and also like very quickly made like an update to that. So I think that could deserve a shout out as well.
Yeah, I agree. Path to Glory, they are quick on the ball. So,
yeah. Extremely.
All right. Next, we got what the heck is going on with you, and this can be what you've been doing for games or what you've been doing for hobby or anything like that. Anything you've been doing just on your own there. And Erik, as a guest, why don't you kick it off? What have you been up to?
Well, I play. I have like a more or less weekly game I play with a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
That we play like in person. So I've been doing that pretty much during the entire COVID season. Apart from that, there's not much. We are like the two most hardcore Underworld players in whole of Norway, I think.
Okay.
There's not much happening here. And I've also recently picked up painting again. I had like a year when I didn't paint anything, and now I painted like four wall bands in like a month.
Wow.
So
that is strong work.
Yeah, it's all quick painted, but it's painted still.
Hey,
yeah.
Is this friend you play weekly? Is he tired of playing against Eyes of the Nine yet, or is he?
Yeah, he is, poor guy. He probably is like the one person in the whole world who has the most experience with playing Eyes of the Nine. I do play other stuff as well sometimes, but I just keep coming back to Eyes of the Nine.
Sure. How about you, Phil? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been busy with our other show for the Mortal Realms, the story phase. So we just finished a recording for a review of Kragnos for Broken Realms. So if you want to check that out, that should be dropping on the 5th of July.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also doing, we got a copy of the Dominion box as a preview for that show. And so I'm putting together some of the Stormcasts so that we can do a bit of a painting competition between a few of us folks on the show. I think, Davey, you're doing one too, right?
Yep, he's sitting right here. I was gonna prime him last week, but we had a whole bunch of rain. So
yeah, I'm in that same boat. And then for actual Underworld stuff, I got our local in-person league started again this past week.
Yeah.
That felt pretty good to be out there rolling some real dice again, seeing folks we haven't played in over a year. So
that was great. Yeah. I made it. We had 2 weeks so far, and I made it to the first. Then I've got a work conflict for the next few weeks, but I'll be back out. But it did prompt me, Erik. You'll enjoy this. I brought 2 war bands. I brought Soul Raid and Eyes of the Nine, and I got immediately heckled by people when they saw I had Eyes of the Nine. I was like, well, this guy plays. He's really good. I think this deck is really good. So try it, and had good success with it. So I've actually played more games of Eyes of the Nine than I have in my life in the past couple of weeks here.
I will say, having been there, you didn't just do well. You cleaned up.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. It's there's been a few guys on Vassal that like took took a similar deck to like looked at my deck and built made some changes or just took a very similar deck to mine after watching me play, who had took them to some tournaments. And the annoying thing is they keep doing better than me. So, like, I conquer them like this and they win. So yeah.
All right. That's it. And we'll mention this again later, but we should mention with the Dominion, our network is actually doing a giveaway for the Dominion box set. So we'll include some details about that later. There'll be a link, and it's just you can do different things like follow on Twitter and all that sort of thing. So, but if you are somebody who plays AOS or just likes those figures, there'll be a box giveaway for that. But let's get on to the main overview. We're going to start with the FAR list, Forsaken and Restricted list, and we'll also actually make mention of a couple errata, and then we'll talk about that. So, and actually, I think I want to start with the errata because that kind of puts into context a number of these. So, Phil, can you break down the Mollog change for us, and then we'll get some.
Yeah. So the new errata from Mollog is that on his inspired side, his ability should be changed to this fighter can make a move or charge action, even if it has one move token. In addition, when this fighter has one charge token, it can still be activated, but cannot make super actions. So on the face of it, this is just saying he's not going to get to double charge while inspired anymore. And that's probably a good change. But it has some strange unintended consequences as well, where now when he is inspired, he can't charge and scything attack anymore.
Right. Because he gets the charge token at the start of that activation.
Yeah,
like as he starts
the move of the charge, he gets the charge token. And
right.
So it's like some weirdness there. Unclear if that was intentional or not. And then just generally, I mean, he can't scythe either. And one thing that's been debated, but looking through the wording, I think it stands that basically now you could move, charge, and then move again, and that would be legal as of the wording of this. So I don't know that actually makes like for a good play, but it's at least an option. But I guess my general feeling is this overall probably brings Mollog down quite a bit in terms of his power level. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's that thing where you could charge right away, and then it doesn't matter if you try to run away because he's got reach 2 and probably speed upgrades. So then he could draw some cards until he felt happy to go charge and kill your other important figure. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to checking it out and seeing how it feels. And it doesn't feel so oppressive for the Mollog player to make him totally gone, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't.
Are you sure that he can't do a charge and skate?
Once he's inspired, it seems like that just based on the timing of when the charge token comes in, but it's not 100%.
Yeah.
Because I thought, I might be wrong, but I thought like you put the token after the attack actions. So I think he can do a charge and skate, but he can't definitely do a skate after he has charge.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Somebody posted the charge like rule from the rule book, and it says after the move action is when they get the charge token.
Okay. Yeah.
But I still feel like maybe it needs to be a FAQ'd because I don't think they
kind of seems like a beta rule as well. Huh?
Yeah.
If that's the case, yeah.
So, there are a number of things that will impact Mollog in the FAR list, but it's also in the context of that change. There's a beta where a beta rule, which is the first time we've seen this, where Kagra, the Ravagers have an inspire of just 2 desecration instead of 3. And it can't hurt, might help. And kudos to go check out Matt on his path to the Grand Clash. See what his take is on that. But all right, FAR list. I'm going to give a quick overview run down real quick, and then I'm going to ask you guys some hard-hitting questions about your take on it. So there was one card that was Forsaken. It's Ferocious Resistance. The 3 universal objectives, these are all surges that were popped. That's Cover Ground, Show of Force, Surge of Aggression. There are only 2 gambits, Mischievous Spirits, Slick Rock, and 11 new universal upgrades on the list. Amberbone Sword, Crown of the Dead, Deserved Confidence, Gauntlet of Command, Geomancer's Gauntlet, Haughty Resistance, Hunter's Talisman, Proud Runner, Savage Visage, Sting of the Urgrub, and Substance Siphon. There are 6 faction-specific cards, 1 from Harrows, 1 from Snarlfang, 1 from Man Trappers, 2 from Crushes, and 1 from Mollog that all got hit. So, gentlemen, hit me with which of these cards was, we'll say, the most expected or the most deserved for you. Phil, do you have a take on that?
I guess, yeah. So I think the Mortis relics, I think everyone probably could have seen this coming. I don't know if they all 3 needed to be restricted, but I certainly expected Crown of the Dead to end up on this list. Seemingly everyone was taking it for the extra draws, and then Gauntlet of Command was being included for the extra wounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, and the extra push when you maybe needed it. And so by putting them all restricted, I think they've effectively eliminated a mass use of any of the Mortis relics.
Yeah, I agree with the relics, obviously, and I think it's the right move actually to restrict all 3 of them, because they are so super strong. They're kind of like 2 upgrades in one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get the bonus on them, like a reroll, a wound, and +1 damage. That's worth an upgrade in itself. And then especially the crown, like draw 2 cards and discard 1. That could be a good upgrade, and make a push or distraction after any activation. That could be like a decent upgrade as well. So I think it makes sense to restrict all 3 of them, so you can still go for them, but you have to be very dedicated to do it.
Yeah.
Another one I think is deserved restricted is Deserved Confidence, because it's basically the same thing. It's like 2 upgrades in one, or 3 or 4 even if you get enough bonus.
Yeah, right. I mean, even when you just get to that first tier where it's 3 upgrades and you get +1 mood and can't be driven back, that is literally what 2 different upgrades will do. You know, with I can't Steadfast or something like that. There's that and a +1 wound. So, and that's before you even get to the higher tiers. So that makes sense. I think my least surprise or in that category to me was actually Cover Ground. I like it fine. I thought the speed package was very powerful for some factions, and of those 3, Cover Ground felt like the one where you could just kind of run in a circle. And it kind of was a bit of a callback to the days where you would have, somebody would cover ground and score a cover ground calculated risk, and they'd score, 2 glory for just wandering around in their backfield. I like that you can still take it, but I think that was the correct one of those 3 to restrict, because the other ones will require a charge or a little more interaction. So that's where I go.
Yeah, and Show of Force is also kind of had to be restricted, because it's just in a similar way to like how the relics and Deserved Confidence are like 2 upgrades. That's like 2 good, score a search for having 3 upgrades on a fighter. That would be a good search. And score a search for having 3 enemies, fighter in enemy territory. That's also a good search. And then there's a hybrid that you can score either of those, and it's just crazy good. I think
it's the rare hybrid that both sides of it are real good. And with the right warband, it's a surge you can score early with the aggressive side, or late with the upgrade side. So makes sense. I like its design, but yeah, it's all over the place. And so that checks out. How about this? Was there a big surprise? Would you point to any of these as your biggest surprise of the list?
I think there's a few cards I think that like didn't need to be restricted. I think the biggest one, or maybe it's just the most annoying one for me because of the deck. But I'm not sure Substance Siphon needed to be restricted. It's probably because I think it's because of how Mollog used it to get like up to 3 dodge. But really, I think there's like enough nerf of Mollog in this update in general that they didn't need to hit this card as well. If that was like what they thought was the problem with this card.
That makes sense. What about you, Phil?
So I definitely I see that one as well. And then I think Sting of the Urgrub didn't necessarily need to be in here. I get that they were trying to take out extra plus damage. Like, I think that makes sense. I just don't know that Sting of the Urgrub was the right one. I think Savage Strength might have actually made more sense.
Or why not Great Strength, huh?
Or just Great Strength. I think the only reason they don't want to touch those is because it's like, those are the core box ones. Like, new players shouldn't have access to restricted stuff, I guess, is maybe the thought there. But
or shouldn't have to worry about restricted as much.
Yeah. But I mean,
there is no core box anymore. There's just
essential
cards.
Fair.
And Cover Ground and Mischievous Spirits are already essential cards.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, no, they probably should have just done Great Strength then. Yeah, because it's going to be around forever. But
they might have thought that they would wanted to restrict Avatar of Urgrub as well, but I haven't seen a successful Avatar strategy in quite a while, I think.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I feel like Sting doesn't make a lot of sense, because then
I agree.
Because then it just absolutely kills playing Avatar. But I guess another one that I thought was weird was the Geomancer's Gauntlet, just because I don't think that many people were using it. If you're going Feed the Beastgrave, that's probably not something you were thinking of as like your first, second, or third choice for flipping hexes. So
I think it's if they wanted to restrict or limit Feed the Beastgrave, I think it's actually a kind of decent pick, because it's one of the few cards that you can't really do anything about. Because a lot of there's a few others. Oh, there's plenty others now actually, but they are not like available to everyone. But many of the cards require you to like be on the objective, or it to be an empty objective or something like that, so you can prevent flipping by standing on objectives. But with this one, you can't.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure if they actually needed to restrict Feed the Beastgrave, though. I've seen plenty of people like play it for like casual games, but very few actually like bring it to tournaments. And I think it's for most warbands, it can work really well, and then there's not much you can do. But if the cards come in the wrong order, or dice fail you if you're playing the like magic variant, and then it's just fails you. So I don't think it's consistent enough to be very strong, but it can be a negative play experience. So that's probably what they were thinking about, I think.
Yeah. How about this? There's is there any card you give, we'll call it the Burst of Speed award to, as in a card that probably only got restricted because there's a particular warband that abuses it in so much worse than others? Any card that jumps out to you here? For me, it's Hunter's Talisman. I think is like Hrothgorn, just because it's +1 at any range, and he has multiple ranges that he uses, and all the rerolls or not all, one reroll for if the enemy's quarry, and he guarantees that they're quarry. I think without Hrothgorn, maybe this doesn't get restricted.
Yeah, it's a really good card for like any hunter, right? +1 dice to any attack action is like stronger than any other accuracy cards we have,
Mhm.
I think.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
for Rodcon, it's just bonkers. So
Yeah.
I'm actually like surprised it wasn't restricted earlier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, like
I think
anything.
that's probably the only one, though. I mean, the rest of these, I think, all had uses in a number of different warbands and probably to more or less effect, but they were all showing up in a number of different ways.
Yeah. Two more questions, and then we can move on to the next here. Here's one. Which card is there a card in here that you find as the most interesting to be on this list? As in it's on here. Some are on here. You're like, even if it's restricted, I'm still taking this. Some are on here. They're like, now that it's restricted, I'm very unlikely to take it. Some of these, I think, is there anything in here where you're like, oh, like if I spend one of my 3 restricted slots on, it's potentially very powerful because people are less likely to expect it now that it's restricted or some such. Is there anyone that jumps out to you for that?
I would say maybe Mischievous Spirits. Um, I guess we kind of saw it coming that this card would be restricted because it's been talked about for a long time that Mischievous Spirits needed to be restricted, and it's rumored to be in every deck, right? But
Yeah.
I find that recently a lot of people have taken it out.
Yeah.
Um, and in the La Vassal Clash, I don't think I saw anyone play it against me at all.
Mm.
And the reason, of course, that people have stopped running it is that objective play haven't been like dominating as much as it used to be. So
Right.
people are taking for aggro warbands rather than for objective warbands.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's so in the future it will be like an interesting meta call.
Yeah.
Like, if you expect a lot of aggro, a lot of objective warbands, then you can still like pay a restricted slot for this card, even if you don't really care about objectives yourself. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Mischievous Spirits is, I think, one that will still be taken, just not as casually. Like, you'll have to really make a call about it now. One that I think is maybe still worth taking, and it'll be an interesting call, is Proud Runner. In that, being able to gain primacy pretty much at will is still powerful, and it can be played either into a deck that likes to score off of primacy, or you can use it to disrupt your opponent's primacy, because you can make your last action in the round to run 5 hexes away with somebody with Proud Runner, and then steal it away, and they won't have time to get it back. So I think depending on how much primacy we still see in play, Proud Runner could become something that still sees a decent amount of play, even though it's restricted.
Last question for you. Of the faction specific, there were 6 faction specific cards restricted. Do you have any particular thoughts there? Is any thought weren't deserved, or couldn't happen soon enough, or were surprised by there? And that's Fleeting Memories, Arm of the Everwinter, Cruel Hunters, Got It Boss, Berserk Fortitude, and Foul Temper.
I guess it's. I think it's about time that Reaper got a restricted card, but I'm a little bit surprised that they hit Cruel Hunters instead of the one that you get glory for having 3 upgrades.
Yeah.
Loaded with Plunder.
Yeah, Loaded with Plunder, exactly. And they are both excellent cards, right? But
That's true.
At least this one requires you to get kills, and you can't. So I think that was an odd choice, but you would normally like put both of those in any Reaper deck, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it matters too much.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think it definitely made sense that we got 2 for crushes. I think they could have chosen Now What instead of Got It Boss, and I would have still been perfectly happy with these choices. I think Got It Boss is just, since it's just hold 1, it's a little easier. Then Berserk Fortitude, I think anything that can reduce damage by more than 1 is probably worth a restricted spot. And in a warband that's already as tough as the crushes, having damage reduction limited is probably a good thing overall.
Not just damage reduction, but damage reduction at reaction speed.
Yeah, right. You just use it when you need it. Make
Yeah.
your opponent always have to think that your damage is always going to be 1 less.
I mean, you think of the warbands that have access to that, like Dread Pageant. They don't necessarily reduce it at reaction speed, but they can transfer it. And Rippas with the narrow escape, like those, that puts
So
a lot
good.
more pressure on the opponent on planning out their attacks. And this was even better than that. So
Yep.
Arm of the Everwinter for Rotgarn is also kind of odd, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
First of all, I'm not sure he really needs 3 restricted cards. Like if you like just compare to Lady Harrows, who have 2 and Rotgarn have 3. I'm not sure if that's needed. But it seems more to prevent the feed the beast grave strategy, right? More than like a universal Rotgarn nerf.
Yeah.
It seems like they just don't want feed the beast grave to be competitive. I guess they want it to be like a fun odd strategy. It seems, but yeah, I don't know.
all right.
And also, I must say, because I looked on this list while I was waiting for you guys to log on, and there's like Stormsire Cursebreakers actually have a restricted card, Harness the Storm. It's a really good card, but they definitely don't need a faction restriction card where the meta is now, I think. So
sure.
I think that should be like just removed from the list.
Yeah, and we've seen that not often, but we have seen it in the past where cards fell off the restricted list. I think that's a really good point.
Yep.
It's encouraging to see that they do that. I hope they remember that that is a thing that they're okay with.
That they can do that,
yeah, exactly. All right. Any last thoughts on that, or should we move on?
Are there any cards you would that aren't on this list that you would think should be on this list?
Oh, well, yes. Only that I don't. It's clear that this list kind of stops at a certain point in the season. So this must have been worked on some time ago. I think Everything to Prove is like my number 1 candidate for hopping on this list once it gets there. What about you, Erik? Do you have?
Yeah, it's like Everything to Prove is like obviously is like a crazy strong card, so should probably be there. It's weird that because you can see that this list was updated in May 2021. So why did it take like to the end of June before they released it?
Right.
That's just strange. But I'm kind of surprised that Gathered Momentum isn't on this list also.
Yeah.
I think they could have picked either of the speed package options to go along with Cover Ground just to shut it down. I almost wonder if they didn't, just because almost all of it is going to be rotating anyway, and unless they print more stuff that works that way, it'll probably just go away anyhow.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I mean, that who knows how long that's going to be given the way their releases have been. So yeah, they could have done more. I agree.
But it is a big list. I mean, it definitely. I've noticed it when I have been making lists that I've got some hard choices, and that's a good thing. So
Yep.
And it's interesting to see. We'll talk about this now, but where you may look like, okay, so this card got restricted. What's my replacement for that? But maybe you're a deck that was taking Nightmare in the Shadows, and now you're like, well, that definitely has to go in favor of something that's not quite, that's distraction adjacent or something, but not cool. But let's talk about it. So, Erik, let's do a rundown of your eyes deck.
Sure.
Whatever I have the list that you brought to the Vassal Clash. And I don't know if there's been any changes since, or is that still pretty representative? Again, pre FAR.
I actually haven't played it since the visual class. So this before the FAR list, that is the most recent list. Yep.
Okay.
I would have made one change, I think, just to this deck, if that wasn't for the FAR list. But I guess we will come to that.
Yeah. So let's give me a why the eyes, and what is it about the eyes that you enjoy or think makes them powerful? What is it that makes them tick that you're saying I'm taking eyes instead of something else? And then from that, we'll kind of transition to why you built the deck the way you did.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've always liked playing underdogs. It's like the extra challenge from playing a warband that is like perceived to be weaker, and of course the extra attention you get if you actually manage to do well. Like you probably wouldn't invite me to come on your podcast if I had conferred with the orcs or something like that. And it's also I find. But it's not just that, because then I could have played like Chosen Nexus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy the way they are unique, that they function in a way that no other warband really can replicate, and that's obviously all about the horror mechanic. That's what makes them unique. I guess the closest thing to them is Skaven, but I actually don't own Skaven, so and I don't like playing warbands. I don't own even on like in a digital format. So so I've stuck with the eyes, and also I started playing them. It was mostly because like we were. Before COVID, we were like trying to build up to get more people locally to play, and it's always a challenge to when you have played the game a lot and then you bring in new players and you want to have like good games with them. So I started playing Ice in that was like the context for how I picked up Ice at first, because I wanted to play like a weak warband to have like fair matches against new players. But then I started winning a lot with them as well, and started playing online, and I started to win against good players with them as well.
Yeah.
Now I don't think like when I play something else, I don't really do better than with Ice. So I just I guess that's why I stick to them or keep coming back to them. I've said like many times that no, it's enough. Ice of the Nine for a while, and then like a new card comes out, and then I'm back on the wagon.
Every time you think you're out, they pull you back in.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And so based on, again, like you said, that the main thing, that strength that they bring that other people don't, is that the blue horror interaction. And it's twofold. It's the being able to summon an enemy territory, and him taking typically two activations to remove, occasionally an activation and a gambit, but that's a very specific gambit. So based on that, what was the overall idea of the sort of direction in the deck that you went with?
Well, like if you want to play an underdog, I think to do it like with satisfaction, you have to kind of try to find the one thing they actually can do better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Or to find something that they can do well that others can't.
Yeah, like with Reavers, it's dying. So your Carnage.
Yeah. So you like have to look for what opportunities there are in the card pool, in the universal card pool, because they don't have they have very weak faction cards. Most of them, they have like one or two good ones. That's about it. There are two good ones and a few that can be okay. But yeah, so you have to look for it in the universal pool and like go from there. And in the current card pool, there's a few cards that I think like goes better with Eyes of the Nine than pretty much anyone else. And that's well, first of all, Swift Capture, which is just perfect for them. Because you can get horror in enemy territory at any time. It's Cryptic Companion, because you can put it on the horror, and it can, if it dies, well, first they have to kill it twice, and if it dies, then you can just summon it back. And then it's Absolute Stillness, I think, as well, which goes really well with Cryptic Companion, because you can summon the horror, and he can be, with a few tricks, summoned directly on an objective and just stay there for the rest of the game. So Absolute Stillness can be really easy. So with those three cards, you kind of have like the basis of the deck, right? To summon the horror, to hold the objectives and score from that. And then there's a lot of other cards now that go along with this strategy, like Dominant Position. Obviously, when that came, that was a big boost to the deck. Underdog is excellent for them, because you are Navia and Turge are very good at dying. And it's also like getting started with this deck can sometimes be hard. So it's not so rare to score it from the second, when an opponent has scored 3 or more objective cards from more cards more than you. That's not so weird as well. Hidden Purpose, obviously, is really good. So there's just I've been building this deck since like halfway through Dire Chasm, I think. At the start of Dire Chasm, there was just like no way to build Eyes of the Nine and do decent with them, but slowly the pieces have been put into position. Where I think that just with the final, what has been lacking through most of Dire Chasm has been good surges, but then we got in the Mad Mob, we got Fleeting Primacy, which is not perfect, but it's quite good. Like you can score it both ways. You hold 3 or more objectives. As long as you have 3 fighters still alive, that can be doable. But the second condition, that you hold 2 or more enemy territory and have the primacy token, that if you just have 2 fighters left, that can also be doable, because you will hold 1 objective in enemy territory most of the time, and then you can like teleport Optimus in and hold the second one and get a kill and score it like that. So I actually think I scored it the second way like two or 3 times during the Vessel Clash.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty good. But still there was like one missing piece, and that missing piece was of course Everything to Prove, which is just the perfect,
Yeah.
perfect objective from this deck.
Yeah.
And then most of these cards are just picked because they are what serves that strategy, and then you notice that there's actually a lot of hybrids and duels.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 4 hybrids and 4 duels in this deck. So set the tempo is also works like perfectly with this deck, I think.
Yeah.
The one card I run just because of set the tempo is Path to Victory. I think I would have run something else if it weren't for set the tempo. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So the general strategy of the deck is just hold 2 objectives, one with Ultimates and one with Horror, and then use all the upgrades to make Ultimates unkillable.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can go up to 8 wounds with these upgrades.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he can have 8 wounds and 3 dodge on guard and ignoring a crit on defense. So once you get like that package going, he's very tough to kill.
Yeah.
And he, like the one trick in this deck that took me a while to figure out was because Eyes of the Nine are, many people view them as like a magic warband, right? Because of fluff and other things. And Ultimates do have a good spell action, and you have that +1 damage spell upgrade as well. But if you look at my deck, I don't actually run that. I run Great Strength instead of that. That's because there are, in the card pool now, there is not a single accuracy card available for spell attacks. So that's just not good enough. And then I already have I use the Ultimus will most of the time just with this deck just use his staff attack instead of the spell attack, his range 2 attack. So with Great Strength and Glory Seeker, he can go to 4 damage, and then with the Crown of the Dead, he has a reroll on that, and you can get assists. And it's actually quite common for this deck to have 9 or more upgrades on Ultimates.
You get all the way to the innate on it.
Yeah, there's actually been a few games where I have had 11 upgrades on Ultimates at the end.
Wow.
Like normally you put Cryptic, normally quite often on the Horror, and the rest just goes on Ultimates. Sometimes Great Strength or Glory Seeker can go on Ch-ch-ch-chaanges, but
yeah.
And I will draw my whole deck of 22 cards almost every game.
And is that so? I know you have 2 draw tech cards. You have Unnatural Truce and Duel of Wits, and it lets you load up mid game. But also, I think you end up taking a fair number of actions to just draw with this deck. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah. It depends on the game and where the game is, of course. But I often it's kind of a motto for me in like general in this game, like when in doubt, draw cards. But especially for this, because you don't really. You just want to sit back, and once you are on those 2 objectives, well, if you can get kills, of course it's good, but you definitely don't want to like charge in on your opponent very often, and you just need the cards to go to make your deck work. So
So I think, and for anyone who's listening, the deck, the before and after FAR versions of the deck will be in our show notes here, or as close to it as we can get. But I think the only objective you haven't mentioned yet is Frantic Exchanges in there, and that's I think part of that, in my experience, I've played this deck now 4 or 5 times. You end up with such a large hand of cards that you can end up using that, and then they'll have these battles over push battles over objectives and back and forth. So that seems to score pretty reliably when you get there.
It can be really annoying sometimes, and it can make you do bad plays at times, like throw away a ploy before you needed it or something like that. But so if there were better alternatives, I would be quite happy to change it out for something. But
Sure.
Especially now when everyone is running Duelowitza, and that you just wait. Both players are waiting for the other to play a ploy, and then one play a ploy, and then Duelowitz, and then the other react again with Duelowitz.
Yeah,
that happens like all the times, and then it's already 3 cards.
Yeah,
so I think it's probably stronger now than it has ever been, just because of Duelowitz, and that's also the reason why I run a natural truce as well, right? I think if I didn't run Frantic Exchange, I would probably cut down to 20 cards and not run a natural truce.
Yeah, I think I found that the biggest tension I had with Frantic Exchange was early on if I was looking to try to use some of my assets to deny a swift capture or a hidden purpose or something like that, where like, especially in the first round, where like I have the resources where I could deny them the seed glory with this, but I am going to torpedo my chance at Frantic Exchange later because I'm going to burn out on it. And so that I would often find that kind of tension of like, is it worth it for me to be spending resources now to deny them seed glory and then potentially denying myself glory in the process? But
it's one of the many, because another reason why I like playing Ice of the Nine and this play style is because you always have to make tough decisions, right? There's so many decisions to make, and that is definitely one of the cards that can force you to make tough plays, and sometimes do like stupid things that even though they are stupid, they are the right play, right?
Yeah, right.
I was actually like the just the day before the clash, I was considering to drop Frantic Exchange from the deck. I wanted to run. I made a list with what's it called, the card that you score if the Steadfast Defender. So I made a list with Steadfast Defender instead of Frantic Exchange because Steadfast Defender is also a decent card for the man, because the horror can be attacked once you're an objective and then he flips and you score Steadfast Defender. So I wanted to run that just for the sake of surprise, because I play a lot of Vassal and many people know my deck. So I thought I will try this and so I can like surprise people. But I had a chat with Steve and Ron on his own Vassal.
Yeah.
And he said, no, don't run Frantic Exchange instead of Steadfast. And he also told me the second surprise I tried to add in this deck was Schlickrock. And he said, don't run Frantic and don't run Schlickrock, run like something else instead. So I listened to him and I swapped out Steadfast Defender for Frantic Exchange, and that turned out to be the right move. Frantic Exchange was really easy to score. I didn't listen to him on Schlickrock, but I regretted that because that card was almost useless in the whole tournament. It did almost nothing. So that's like the first card that I would drop.
There's some good disruption available. I ran it in there. I had the rare rare occurrence where I actually triggered Frantic Exchange off of Slick Rock, and it was because I was playing against the Wild Hunt, and they used the card to move during the power step, and then I Slick Rocked off of the move in the power step, and it happened to be the fifth power card that dropped in that power step, and I was like, I can't imagine there have been too many times in the history of the game where Frantic Exchange scored off of Slick Rock.
Yeah, that's never happened to me, at least. I was in the semifinal. I played against Tommy Conboy, where he just demolished me completely. I was thinking I would finally get like the chance for Slick Rock to shine, because Vortemis was standing next to an objective, and the Everhanged was ready to charge him with like a 4 dice for damage attack. So I was hoping like, okay, he will now charge on the objective, and I can finally use Slick Rock, and that will save Vortemis and give me a chance in this game. But of course, Tommy was too smart to charge on that bloody objective. And that's just what Steve said also. Like, yeah, it can surprise people, but good players will just play around it, and that's exactly what happened. So moral of the story is listen to Steve, I guess.
Well, I think we have our first candidate for the getting cut in the revamp here. I'm going to run quick through these before, and again, you can take a look at this deck on online on using the show notes. Before this far list, your restricted were Hidden Purpose, Restless Prize, Cryptic Companion. You picked up an additional 7 based on the one you had. So Show of Force, Mischievous Spirits, Slick Rock, Substance Siphon, Deserved Confidence, Gauntlet of Command, and the Crown of the Dead. So now you have a list of 10, and it's got to get trimmed back down to 3. We already know right off the bat, based on your regrets on that deck, that Slick Rock goes. Slick Rock, that's probably just gets replaced with Hypnotic Buzz or Mirror Move or Center of Attention or something like that. Is that?
Yeah, I think if it was just like a 1-to-1 swap, I would probably put either Mirror Move or Center of Attention. Yeah,
sure, and that's a good point. When you have this many swap outs that you need to do, this doesn't end up being a 1-for-1. If you went from 3 restricted to 4 restricted, maybe a 1-for-1 is something you can do. But so let's go to the other end of the spectrum. You have 10. Say 9 because Slick Rock's going. Of those, you got to pick 3. Which are the 3 that you say like these are essential? I cannot part with these. I'm gonna have to include these and find a way around the rest.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because it's really hard to pick just 3.
Yeah.
Because so like every time there's a new far list, it's kind of a bittersweet experience when playing Eyes of the Nine, because they hit like strong universals to like nerf the. I'm not sure what they're thinking. If like their main motivation is they just want bigger variety in the card pool, or if they are want to like nerf the strongest warbands. But it happens every time, that because these strong cards, they also like makes it so that the weaker warbands can actually function. Well, I always think that the objective deck is the most important part of your deck, because that's how you score your glory. Especially in a deck like this where you don't plan to get much glory from kills. So the one card that I would definitely choose is Hidden Purpose, because that's just the easiest search in the world to score. And it's good.
And this deck in particular is always going to be able to score it as long as Vortemis is alive, because you can always keep summoning that.
I think that's worth mentioning again. Right. Also, that what another thing that makes Eyes of the Nine unique is, like, in a way they are like the best hold 2 warband in the game, because they can hold 2 objectives with just one fighter. Because all you need is Vortimis, and as long as Vortimis is alive, then you can hold 2 objectives. Because the horror is like just a part of Vortimis, right? Because you can summon it at any time. So even though Vortimis doesn't have a strong stat line as Mollog or Rotgorn or that new bone guy, he more than those fighters, or maybe not more than Mollog, but he can function like a warband on his own. Like as long as you have, there's definitely been matches where I had like only Vortimis and the horror left after like the first round, and then he can just solo the whole match because you make him unkillable, and then you just stick to 2 objectives and score your full deck. But yeah, Hidden Purpose I would definitely want to keep. And then there's I think I would prefer going the other way, actually. Like so I dropped Slick Rock. That's the first card I would drop. And then I would drop the Gauntlet and the Crown, because they are a package of 2 cards, and there's just no way I can afford to keep them both. After that, it gets much more difficult, because this Serve Confidence is just amazing in this deck, because there's the defensive. Because you can quite often get to the actual, like, the 9+ bonus as well, right? So it's an amazing card in this deck, defensively and aggressively. Substance Siphon is also really, really good in this deck, and then it combos with many other cards, and it's very important to keep Vortimis alive. And Cryptic Companion is like one of the main reasons I even built this deck, right? It's the But then again, it's just, when you look at the deck, it's just gravy. It's it's not required to like score anything else. It's just like a bonus 3 glory. And then there's Restless Prize and Mischievous Spirits that are just very important to really helpful to score the rest of your deck, because they you want to be on objectives, and it's just not just that, but these are the 2 opportunities you have to actually like move objectives onto starting hexes, which is good for both Deceitful Step and for the horror, right? So Show Force it's not perfect, because I can in general only score it the second way. Like, I don't have 3 or more friendly fighters in enemy territory. That happens like one in 50 games, maybe.
Yeah.
But so it's difficult. It's not a good draw in the first round, but after that, it's just auto score, right? You just stay still and score it. So it's really, really good. And it's a hybrid as well. So if I take that out, I think I would maybe set the tempo even. So there's a lot of really, really tough calls that I had to make when editing this deck. So what I went with actually is I chose to not mess with the objective deck at all.
Okay.
So I've kept Hidden Purpose and Show Force as 2 of my restricted slots. If I were to change Show Force, I would change it either for Steadfast Defender, which is decent, but you rely on your opponent to score it, which is not so good. I could also swap it for Wing Death is decent, because you well, with some changes, you can get the range 3 attack, and then you would need to change the gambit also to run like the +2 move,
Sure.
and quarry, maybe a second one even. But I don't think once you add the other, if you need to add the speed cards, then you'd like reduce the chance to score the whole rest of your deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I chose to stick with Hidden Purpose and show Force. And the second biggest priority that you need to win games is to keep Optimus alive. So I actually chose to keep Substance Siphon as my third restricted, just because it can be very hard to inspire Optimus.
Yes,
Very great.
And
So this
corner case as it is also, there's a slight risk there as well. You know, the double crit into a miscast can get him in a dangerous spot. So
yeah. So you don't want to be aggressive with Optimus just to try to inspire and then miss your attack, right?
Right.
So it can be like a +2 dice, and once you have Dominant Defender and Silent Helm on as well, then those 2 dice becomes extremely valuable. So I went with those 3 cards. I guess you can see why I was kind of annoyed with Substance Siphon also on this.
Yeah.
So that means that I had to take out Restless Price and Mischievous Spirits for one, which is hurting your ability to stay on objectives and also to counterplay your enemy if they want to stand on objectives. So I think this deck is quite a bit weaker than the original one, and it's really, really hurt by this far list. But I think I don't think I would go like end up in the, or it would be much more difficult to go like 4 wins on day 1 with this deck than it was before the far. But I think it can still function. So what I've done is since I don't have Crown of the Dead anymore, I've cut the deck down to 20 cards. Because before, with Crown of the Dead, I used, when I ran just 20 cards, I would often like draw my whole deck too fast, and yeah. But I think that would not be that much of a problem before. And also once the short confidence and the gauntlet is gone, I've lost 2 plus wound upgrades.
Yeah.
So that also really, really hurts. But I guess to go with the ploys first, what I've done is, as a Restless Price, Mischievous Spirits, and Slickrock is gone, and I've added Center of Attention as just like a replacement for like just another push instead of moving upgrades. And I've actually added Jealous Defense now.
Oh,
solid.
Which is a good card for them. It's like one of the bubble cards that I didn't include before. I didn't find a spot for. But I think there might be a spot for it now.
Can I pause for a second on that? Because I think a big thing here is Fortimus likes to, well, so you are already trying to engineer your absolute stillness. So you're already trying to get on objectives without moving. It'll give you that extra trigger. And even if you are forced to move with Vortimus, it's much preferable to move him rather than charge him, because you want him to still be able to summon if he needs to later. So this lets you move him onto an objective and still get a swing in if that's priorities. Is this kind of your thought process?
Or just push him on, right, from like the
sure,
all the friendly pushes I've had in this deck.
Yeah.
And also, so it's like the so it can give Vortemis an extra attack. It can give Vortemis a chance to inspire. And it can, sometimes it's just the horror can use it as well, right? And it can be an attack that like pushes a fighter into lethal or something like that.
Yeah.
And it also combos really well with Deceitful Step. Like the dream play, of course, is like if I have Deceitful Step and Jealous Defense in my hand, and then I teleport Ch-ch-ch-chaanges, hopefully with Glory Seeker. And he lands on an objective and he makes an free attack, and then he can charge and do another attack. That's like the dream play.
Very nice.
It doesn't happen all the time. And because I've now lost all my accuracy, the accuracy card that were Crown of the Dead and Disturbed Confidence, I've chosen to take out Great Strength as well, and I've added Empowered Sorcery. Because I think I will use the magic, his spell attack will be more relevant.
Sure.
And I, instead of the crown, I guess Silent Ring works as a replacement. Sure. It's also a quarry card, and so it replaces kind of both Cryptic Companion and Crown of the Dead, right? Because you can use it to draw, and it's a quarry card, and I need at least 3 quarry cards, I think, to score Absolute Stillness. And I haven't tried it, Silent Ring, with this deck. I'm not sure how good it will be, because I will often have, like you said, like a lot more than 3 cards in my hand. So maybe it's just a bad card for them. I don't know. But but I don't know. So I already have the Silent Helm, and I added the Silent Ring now, and then I added Silent Armor as well.
Oh, interesting.
Which is, I don't think it's a really good card, but if you have the helm and the ring and you want wounds and there's no other plus wounds available, then it's maybe a decent pick.
Sure.
So it gives +1 wound if this fighter has 2 or more silent relics, and then I will also has a chance to get the 3 or more silent relics for the extra bonus on Silent Helm, that you can roll 1 extra defense.
Yeah.
So I think with that upgrades, I managed to keep Vortemis almost as well, not unkillable, but tanky,
durable.
Durable. Yeah, I guess it's the best word that he was. And the last card I've added, because I've lost in my Gambit deck a lot of the cards that help me stick to objectives, I've added the Quickening Griefs that I used to run, but in my deck, but I found that I didn't really need with all the pushes and stuff that I had. So I swapped in another, like I think I changed it with Great Fortitude some days before the Vassal Clash. But it's a good card, right? And it can really help you out.
Definitely.
So I think that covers the changes and
I think
my thoughts behind the changes.
Yeah. So is there, with the gambits, and I don't know if I missed this, is there anything left in the gambits that will move an objective token onto a starting hex, or have those been forced to disappear?
Nothing. Okay. So so that hurts. And also like the Gauntlet of dominance. What gauntlet it
Command.
Gauntlet or command, yeah. It used to work similarly, right? You summon the horror in a starting hex and then pay a glory and push him onto an objective.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, that is also gone. So it's definitely hurt, taken down quite a few pegs. Is that the right word? By the restricted list. But so far, this is the best I've come up with.
Did you have any consideration for something like shifting shards, or is it just too easy to block since it can only be on a empty, unoccupied hex?
Shifting shards, that's the one that let you move to like objective 1 or objective 2.
No, that would be Labyrinth Boots. Shifting shards, it's in the essentials now. It takes one objective token and pushes that is unoccupied, and then pushes it 1 hex. So it's like a much more trimmed down Restless Prize.
I didn't. I don't think I knew that card existed. There's been a lot of cards coming out lately, right? That might be a good call, I think, because getting that one objective on a starting hex can be really, really helpful. At least sometimes.
Yeah.
Another card I did consider was the upgrade that I can't remember what it was called. The one that gives you a support on your defense rolls.
Yeah. It is a different kind of companion. I think I've had this exact problem before where I couldn't remember what kind of companion it was. But it's purely on defense. Count 1 more support.
Warding companion.
Warding companion. Yeah, exactly. So
there's a fair number of companions: warding, soothing, hunting, cryptic. Yeah,
it's a whole big thing. Nice, huh? So that would I have 1 less wound now in my deck, and getting the extra wound for Silent Helm might be difficult. So that would give Votimis more durability. Really combos well with Substance Siphon and Dominant Defender. So if he's 3 dice on dodge, 3 dice on guard, and 1 support and ignores crit, then it can be really, really tough. So if like the Silent Ring doesn't work out, I think that Silent Ring might be the first card I would take out, because I think that you will quite often find that you don't have 3 or fewer power cards. And then obviously the Helm would go also, because that doesn't really work good enough, I think, with just the... No, not the Helm.
The armor?
The armor would go, because that doesn't work good enough with the Helm alone, I think.
Sure. I think that's fair.
But there's a quite few other ways you could go, right? If I took out Show of Force, just swapped it for maybe Dominant Defender, then I would the first card I would take back in would be Restless Prize, I think. Because it's just so good.
It's such a big swing, sure. Yeah.
And then you can do other things with the objective deck, like run to the end instead of set the tempo, or Great Gains instead of set the tempo. You have 4 quarries, or 3 or 4 quarries, depending, so you can run ahead of the hunt. It's cool. I'm not sure that's good, because already you need 1 glory to score that, and the difficult thing, the struggle with this deck can be getting that first glory.
It can give you a pretty difficult opening hand if that's in there, and then you're working real hard for a 1 glory end phase.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's been what I've been thinking, and so I'm not sure how this will work out, but this is, I think, my best shot so far.
Yeah. Well, I think that's exactly what we're looking for. We're gonna, try and go into how that thought process works. And I think that one of the first points you made, it was one of the biggest ones I'd have a listener take away here, and that's that if you're just looking at it a one for one, you may be looking at it wrong, because there's cascading
Yeah, like
effects there.
if you like one small change to the deck can like change the whole puzzle, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, but sometimes it's just one for one, right? You can find like if you're used to run what's it called, Sting of the Earth group, and you didn't run the Hunter +1 damage card, then just
Sure.
swap that out. Yeah, right.
Or
But I think if you are in that position, you after this far list, you are quite lucky.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. This feels like one of the bigger that we've had. And it makes sense because it's been a while. So, yeah, some big changes. Phil, did you have any more thoughts or questions you wanted to hit here?
I mean, I think we already hit on some of it. I've had a lot of similar sorts of thoughts as I've been trying to rework my Starblood deck. And I guess one that works for me is Living Land. But I don't need to necessarily worry about moving stuff in opponent territory as much. So I don't know if you'd considered that one. My guess is that that's the reason why. And then I guess the only other thing that I've been thinking about through this is that, so not only do we need to consider like individual deck changes and trying to rebalance the decks, but then also potentially a larger ground shift, and like are certain strategies that previously were really hard to play now viable again? And could we see, I mean, so I guess something that I've been thinking about and seeing in other reviews is that hold 3 might be possible again. And if hold 3 is possible again, then that could potentially mean a whole bunch of changes for a whole bunch of decks.
Yeah, there's if you had a lot of tech for Mollog and Morgok's Crusher before, you especially the Mollog tech, you can just take out now, right? Because it's been
you won't be as
present. I think it's been nerfed to the ground, honestly.
Yeah.
With all the changes that affect him. I might be wrong, of course, but
it could be.
I guess
we'll see what Michael Carlin has to say about it. So.
He'll probably prove me wrong sooner rather than later. But yeah, and yeah, the objective play is probably coming back strong.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. We get Thorns or Grimwatch surging back up. So.
Yeah, Thorns and Grimwatch already before this far list, I think, were really, really strong. Just look at what Tommy Conboy did with his Thorns.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Primacy is in the game, but and it's not good for them. But I think they have a lot of other stuff going for them now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a tip. Like, change your Mollog tech into Thorns tech.
yeah.
Fair. Well, all right. Phil, any last thoughts here?
No, I think we're good. I think there's a lot to chew on here.
Yeah. How about you, Erik? Any last thoughts before we close out?
No. I was just thinking about this now. I don't know why it popped in my head, but I'm kind of surprised something like bold deeds weren't restricted. Like something to, but yeah.
We'll see if it becomes. I definitely got thrashed pretty good by Goro running a aggro Crimson Court. I was trying out Soul Raid a little bit, so maybe that was also part of the problem. But he was scoring all kinds of 2 glory end phase for having beaten up some elves and crabs. So
I'll tell you what, the reason I haven't played this ice deck since the Clash is because I've been playing the Soul Raid as well.
Oh, all right.
Nice. All right.
It does seem there. I see a little bit of similarity there.
Exactly,
with
they are like aggressive ice in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
You have a lot of. I think they have. Well, there's at least more to remember with them. There's so many reactions, and there's always
Right.
difficult small choices you have to make that make them really interesting. But while at least these ice in general, I think have to play very passive. I think they have to play very aggressive. So
yeah.
But I think they are a very very interesting warband, and they seem quite popular as well. Like when they first were released, everyone, or at least many people, were like, "Oh, they suck." But there's, I don't think I've seen like that many mirror matches on Vassal that I've seen of the fish people. I don't know.
Oh man.
So I think they are.
It's a lot of shoal
at
counter
least people are
shenanigans.
trying them out, and then we will see how many people will actually stick with them. All right, but I think they are definitely better than like the first reaction people had. Yeah,
I think so. I look forward to us getting towards an episode once we got a little more experience and some folks. Maybe you, Erik. Maybe you can come educate us there. So. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been awesome. It was exactly what we were hoping for. Although when we first contacted you, did not know this would be a Forsaken and Restricted episode. But
thank you very much for having me on. I have like another one of my life goals completed now.
All right.
Next one is actually making it to a final in a Vassal Clash. But,
I think you are that feels achievable. So
well on the way.
Yeah. All right. Well, as usual, if you want to talk to us, you can get us at WTHcast or whatthehexcast@gmail.com. You can check out all our content, including stuff that Phil's been on quite a bit at themortalrealms.com. I may be jumping on an episode there pretty soon. We do have, we'll have a link in the show notes and then also at our website for the Dominion giveaway. I believe this episode will drop on Monday the 28th, and I think you'll have about a week from then to get your entries in. Coming up, we're gonna continue to play it loose, so we'll see where we go from there. Your recommended listening is "Changes," the title track off of the late Charles Bradley, his album, and it is an excellent one. Changing your deck or being devoted to the Lord of Change, the Master of Change. So either way. For What the Hex, I've been Davey.
This is Phil.
And this have been Erik. Nice to meet you too. I think I played you before and you kicked my ass. But,
yeah, I get lucky every once in a while. But the actually have shamelessly stole your deck. I think you were playing, and I was like, I guess we'll talk about this more as well. Anyway, but you were playing, and I kept on like going and watching during the clash, like who is doing what, and I was like, oh, is somebody playing eyes? And I look, and I'm like, and he's blowing out his opposition. Like, what is going on? And so I'd like in between doing chores, I'd like jot down some things about what your deck was and see, put it together. And it's been a ton of fun. So excited. So.
Cool.